Okay, welcome back everyone. Today we're going to talk about a very little known golden visa in the EU. I'm going to give you all the details about that as well as a couple other residency programs in a really under talked about and quite unexpectedly good country. I'll talk to you a little bit about some of those details, but I will discuss more in future details or in future videos about some of the pros and cons of this particular country. But I'll give you some overviews here in this one. So make sure you subscribe to check out the future ones. Now, in the last video, I talked a little bit about being here in this beautiful country on this beautiful day, and asked people to guess where it was that I was. So we're going to answer that today. So we are in Vilnius, Lithuania, which is a remarkably surprisingly nice place. So pros and cons. So first of all, Vilnius is unbelievably clean. It's maybe the cleanest city in Europe that I've been to, or at least major city in Europe, capital city. Like, we're talking about Dubai level clean. It's very, very clean. It seems very polished. It is very, everything is well maintained. There's good infrastructure in that sense. Like, you just kind of look at the sidewalks, you look at the roads, etc. Like, very good condition. The buildings, super wonderful. Almost no graffiti. Like, really quite excellent. All the cars tend to be nice and new. And for those who are not familiar, it is a country, so it's about 800,000 people in the Vilnius area. It's about 1/3 of the population of the country that lives in that area. And so it's pretty remarkably good in that regard. Now, kind of by the stats, the healthcare it's okay. It's decent. It's like medium level. Education, if you're kind of looking for your kids, medium level, both public systems, so that's available for people, kind of the EU type thing. Wages are higher than other countries in the region, so higher than Latvia, higher than Estonia, higher than Poland, etc., but lower than someplace like Austria. However, taxes are also quite a bit lower. Taxes, you're typically, for an individual, talking about 20 to 32%. However, I will go over in future videos about how you optimize your tax in Lithuania. We've had a variety of different clients from Lithuania over the years, and it is known as being a very friendly place for getting banking licenses, the EMI rules here. So you'll notice most of the EMIs are licensed in Lithuania, and they have the best IP box regimes in Europe, which is also kind of interesting and attractive. So yeah, I would say that what's the downside? Well, so the taxes are not amazing, although there are ways to plan around it. They're not amazing. And second of all, the weather is really not particularly good a huge portion of the year. So weather-wise, not great. This may be reflected a little bit in the very high suicide rates in Lithuania. And so, that could be kind of this overcast sort of thing. But generally, also like quite a food haven. A lot of Michelin restaurants, a lot of excellent restaurants, lots of soul, lots of vibes, lots of good architecture. So yeah, like generally, I think the actual theme of Vilnius is unexpectedly great. And I mean, I just give the fact that I don't hear people talking about it, hardly ever, including people from Lithuania. And so that's kind of interesting, right? It's worth noting. So now let's talk about the residency permits. So there's basically, it's not particularly that easy to get residency in Lithuania compared to numerous other places. So if I'm like, hey, what's the easiest place to get a Schengen visa or something? Lithuania is not it. This being said, there are 3 residency permits that may be interesting for you. The first one is a startup visa. This is typically in sort of something tech related. This is only eligible to founders. It doesn't require minimum investment in the company, although it does require that you demonstrate enough income for yourself to maintain your like kind of welfare in the country, etc., as you go on. And so that's typically, you're talking about, around 8,000 euros is typically what they want to see. So, okay, that's an option. I'll talk in a minute about who can come in as dependents on some of these things, how it works with citizenships, because it's kind of universal across the different options. The second option that we can look at is a business visa. And this one is where you invest into a business. The business has to have a minimum of 28,000 euros in paid up capital. However, each person who is getting the visa needs to be a shareholder holding at least 14,000 of that. So in theory, you could have two holding 14,000 each, representing 28,000 overall. So that's an option. In this case, you actually do have to employ some Lithuanian or EU citizens, typically at least one, although it depends a little bit on what's going on. There's some process around submitting business plans and things like this to be able to get approved. So that's that. And this brings us to the third. And the third is sort of their version of a golden visa. So this requires a minimum 260,000 euro investment into a business. It has to be an active business. So this is not something where you're going to go and get something like, passive investment, something like that. In fact, with all of these, the idea is that you are going to be involved in these companies in some form. That's the reason they're giving you out the visa. So this is a little bit different from what you'll see in a bunch of other countries. But you could go and you could say, okay, well, normally for this visa, you're going to hire 5 people. Okay. So you're going to employ 5 people. Wages in Vilnius are like medium. You're talking about, obviously it depends on who you're hiring, but 2,000 to 3,500 euros a month would be a fairly typical sort of medium wage. But it depends on what you're looking at. The advantages here are there's some very favorable tax policies. And again, I'll cover that in a future video. So by all means, go and check out those other videos, and you can see when I come out with that. So just hit the subscribe button. And so you can say, okay, well, maybe I'm going to hire people anyway. I'm going to build a business anyway, and I want to get a visa. Well, why not do that in Lithuania? Like I said, you need access to the right talent. It is a small talent market, so that's an issue. And as I was saying, the wages are they're okay, right? They're reasonable. The thing that is fairly appealing, so you can have, there's not kind of the same renewal level that you get in some places. So this can be up to a 3-year visa, which is nice and extendable again. So typically you're looking at kind of 2 and 2 or 3 and 3 or something like that, extending you out to 5 years so that you can qualify for permanent residency. You are not supposed to be out of the country for more than 6 months at any one time. To get permanent residency, you're not supposed to be out more than 10 months in 5 years, which is pretty high standard, right? Most people, I would say, are probably not going to go down that road unless they're actually seriously thinking about moving to Lithuania. Obviously, it's an EU Schengen country, and so that's great. You are in a situation where there's free zones in Lithuania, which is pretty interesting. So you could invest money into a free zone and benefit accordingly. That would be an option. You can speed up the process of approval somewhat by investing a higher amount, like 500,000 euros is kind of the typical number. You're going to look at being able to, as I say, bring dependents in. Now, there's an interesting thing with dependents here, which is, of course, you can bring dependent children. You can bring married spouse, including gay spouses, but you cannot bring common law spouses. So that's worth noting. You have to actually be formally married in Lithuania to be able to take advantage of this. The citizenship is available after, so you do 5 years to get permanent residency, and then 5 more years to get citizenship. You have to have a B1 level of Lithuanian, which again, lots of people probably aren't going to learn the language. It's sort of they call it, I think, a Baltic Slavic language. So it's kind of different from most other things, and you're probably not going to use it elsewhere. So that's worth considering. I don't find it to be so different like something like Hungarian or one of those, but it is definitely just not a common language, right? Additionally, they don't allow dual citizenship in most cases, although in cases of something like a good friend of mine got citizenship by descent here, and so that's pretty awesome, right? Great to have citizenship by descent, and then you could have dual citizenship in cases like that. But mostly, if you're going to naturalize, you're going to have to give up your existing passport. It's obviously a great passport, but that being said, do you want to give up yours? It depends on what you've got prior to it. So yeah, this is, I think, I generally don't find that people most people don't consider Lithuania as a place to live. Weather, I think, is a turnoff for some people. This being said, I think it's underrated. I definitely think that it should be considered to be a better place than a lot of people would normally think. And so you should definitely give it a look to add on to what you're otherwise considering. But the thing is that, are most people going to move here? Probably not. Is it probably your top choice for residence permit? In itself, probably not. However, I think where it's interesting is if you're going to do a company anyway, then it turns out there's some really interesting tax policies, which, as I said, I'll mention in future videos. And yeah, if you want help with international tax planning, you can reach out to us. You can book a call with me. This is what we do. We're very jurisdiction agnostic. We work with people from 150 jurisdictions around the world, doing solutions all over the world in terms of finding out what is the best solution for you and implementing it for you. So happy to do that. You can book a call at calendly.com/Rosmer, link in the description below, blah, blah, blah. So definitely go and do that if you have specific questions, because everything is very person specific. But if that was the case, if you're like, okay, I need to have some presence in the EU, or I need to be in a situation where I'm going to set up a company anyway, and I'm going to invest this money anyway, like it's nothing really to say, okay, I'm going to have a 260,000 euro budget for staff over the course of a couple of years or something like this. Is just, that would be nothing crazy about that at all. And so if you can then get a residence permit in the EU associated with that, well, that's pretty great. You may have difficulties renewing it if you aren't spending the time in the country. But this being said, you can have a lot of time to pivot around and go accordingly. And it might be one of the best options for actually having the company. So hope that answers questions you have. Put them in the comments below if you have others, and I will look forward to seeing you on the next video.